Well, Alex was a great friend and mentor that I knew all my life, known as the Matt, the man about town. Alex loved to tell the story of how he knew me before I was born, as my mom already told you. My first recollection of him was as a child in the 1980 Theatre Under the Stars production of The Mikado, which he choreographed, directed, and it was Coco, and my mom played the role of Yum Yum. He gave me a little role as the executioner's helper. This was the beginning of my love for GNS, and we had such a fun time with many laughs in that show. And then I have fond memories of him in the children's chorus of the Vancouver Opera while he was still there. But it was really during my adult years that I became close with him. He became one of my biggest confidants. Sometimes I didn't always want to hear what he had to say or the way he would give me advice. He would do it with effect, but it would stick with me. One of my favorite sayings of his was, "Now look at yourself in the mirror and ask yourself, how old are you? If it hasn't happened now, it won't happen." He visited me in Paris in 1994 when I was in the Paris Opera Studio, and I took him on the tour of the opera studio, and he saw me in some lessons. That was fun. He was also a great MC for one of my recitals that I did here. He was also present for many milestones in my life, such as my winning of the Metropolitan Opera auditions. I graduated from UBC, which he actually encouraged me to do because I'd left Vancouver before I finished my degree and had that stint in Europe, and he pushed me to finish my degree. I always look forward to opening night parties at the opera when they still had them, because he would be there on stage every single opening, and he always had a drink ticket for me. He was the most interesting person at these parties, and I would look forward to these parties just to see him. And then the next day, on Sunday, we'd always have a long talk about the show, and he'd give me his critique. Oh, yeah. Well, those opening nights will never be the same, but I'll still probably be looking for him in the first row when we do our bows. We also had a tradition of always sitting together in the audience during the Metropolitan Opera competitions, where we would pass little notes back and forth to each other about the singers. We'd try to guess which one would win. Now, another favorite line of his was, "He can't trill." The last time I was at the Metropolitan Opera auditions was this past November, and I helped him read the program because his eyesight was starting to fail him. Sure was. Now he also said to me one time in Mexico, "Have you taught Fania to trill?" That was my daughter when she was 4 months old. Whenever I would see him at events, I would always gravitate around him, as he really made me feel special, especially at the times when my self-esteem was low. He would often introduce me to people and give me flattering comments. I could always count on him to vet for me. I feel very lucky to have been able to come down to Puerto Vallarta a few times in the last 5 years, where I got to witness him in his Mexican element. It was most interesting to be at the beach while he would sing these mariachi songs and serenade people. He would always have a special chair where he would hold court, with a few others around him all day, and he'd also have a few seats just reserved for anybody who would drop by and pay him homage. I would always look forward to our heart-to-heart talks, which would happen on the beach. And then in the evening, when we were wandering around at night, he would often be sitting at Maximilian's, and sometimes we'd have an apple strudel and a coffee, and we'd catch up on gossip. Recently, when I heard that the Vancouver Opera is going to be doing Turandot in the fall, I just automatically reached the phone to dial his number, and then I realized, I'm not going to be calling that number anymore, because he was always the first person I would tell these pieces of news to. It's still very hard for me to get used to the reality that he won't be coming home this March, and that I will be no longer calling 685-5852. I believe there's a video now of at the beach. No, it's not at the beach. It's when he's singing Frenesi, one of his favorite songs he used to sing on the beach and at Maximilian's. This is probably how he wants to be remembered. So I'll sing the song after we hear parts of it on the screen. He always used to buy bananas for that.
Yeah.
Go, you know?
He was famous for his Valentine's days. Everybody looked forward to
Yeah,
it.
you always said it.
They decorated them.
Didn't he? You always said it.
Along with decorations.
That was the winner that year. Alex awarding the prizes.
Yeah.
And his birthday.
There's a video on YouTube I made of this one.
That was his maybe 80th birthday.
No, 78. It was in 2012.
And that's
Lo mismo que siento yo, quiero pedirla solo para ti, y que tú vayas por donde yo voy, hasta que mi alma sea más feliz, esa mejor frenesí.
How can you follow that?
Bésame tú a mí, bésame igual que mi boca te besó. Dame el frenesí, esa locura que dio. ¿Quién si fue soñó puede enseñarte el camino del amor? Cuéntame altivez, cuando mi orgullo rodó a tus pies. Quiero que vivas para sobre mí y que tú vayas por donde yo voy, para que mi alma sea más de ti. Bésame con frenesí, dame la luz que tiene tu mirar, y la ansiedad que trae tus labios vi, esa locura de vivir y amar, que es más que amar de frenesí. Hay en el beso que te di, alma, piedad, corazón, dime que sabes de sentir lo mismo que siento yo. Quiero que vivas para sobre mí y que tú vayas por donde yo voy, para que mi alma sea más de ti. Eso me frenesí.
Sing along now, have along.
Que tú vayas por donde yo voy, para que mi alma sea más de ti. se me